Hi, I'm Espen Kraft, and that's the SSL SiX. Today we're going to run some stems of mixes through this console to see if my music can benefit from the term analog summing. Is that just a hoax to sell gear, or does it really make a difference to the sound? Well, we're going to find out. And we're going to start with the Audient ID22. Out of that, I can pipe 8 tracks optically through ADAT. And that goes out of the ID22 and into the PreSonus Digimax DP88, which are then set to external sync, ADAT sync, through the optical cable. And that ends up here, going into the PreSonus Digimax. And these 8 tracks are then converted into analog signals, and that's going to be piped out of this DB25 connector. And this DB25 to 8 balanced jacks are now going into the SSL SiX. So we have mono channel 1, mono channel 2, both with EQ and compression. We have stereo channel 3 and 4. We have stereo channel 5 and 6. And my last 2 channels I run into the external in, which is another stereo input of the SSL SiX. And the level of that I can control from this knob here. There is another external input as well, external input number 2, a stereo input. And I use that to take back an effects return from a Lexicon PCM81, which I use as a reverb or delay. And I feed that from my stereo cue number 1, which is the same as an auxiliary send 1. And everything comes up on the stereo main bus. And from here I can run everything through the G-series bus compressor if I want to, and I always want to, of course. Both mono channels has channel compressors and channel equalizers from SSL, and 2 stereo auxiliary sends called stereo cues in SSL's world. Both the channel compressors and channel EQs has individual in-outs, so you can bypass them anytime you want. So the mono channels are very flexible. They even have alternative inputs if you want to use that. And that brings me to the back of the SSL SiX, where most of the inputs and outputs are going through DB25 connectors. And I have hooked those up to my patch bay. And that means I have now easy access to the send and returns of my main channel, left and right, as well as my channel inserts and returns. And those alternative inputs, which you can see I have actually hooked up here. To the left of the DB25 connectors, you can see the 2 auxiliary stereo sends. And you have monitor outputs and a B-bus output and the main bus output on the XLRs there. And those end up here at the inputs of my ID22 coming back from the SSL SiX. But if I want to bypass the preamp completely coming back, I can go through the returns of the ID22. That'll bypass the preamp. I go straight into the converter and into the DAW. And so what I've done here in my DAW is I've set up stem mixes. So I have stems of the synths, drums, bass, and vocals. The synths and drums are both stereo stems. The bass are a mono stem. The vocals has a stereo stem, and I have the harmonies as a mono output. And that totals 8. And I've set it up like this. I have the drums in stereo going out ADAT 3 and 4. The synths going out 5 and 6, also stereo. The vocals going out 7 and 8 in stereo. 1 vocal track going out in mono, ADAT 1, and the bass also mono going out in ADAT 2. And I also have 2 analog outputs if I want to use those, and I use those through the alternative inputs. So that's the basic setup. So let's start the track and do some analog summing and a little bit of after mixing. So you have stereo drums, mono bass, stereo synths, and you see me pressing the PFL button here, the pre-fader listening. That means I solo these tracks. You won't hear that, but I hear it in my monitors. So that won't affect the main bus out. I have a little bit of channel compression and EQ on the bass here. And it all gets piped out, the main bus out, which has the stereo bus compressor engaged, taking a little. And here are the vocals coming in on external input 1, and that's the level control for that. And that's the in-out. So that mutes that external input 1. Stereo external input 2, that's the effects processor I have on the background vocals coming in the chorus here. That's the last of the yellow tracks there. I also have a little bit of channel compression on that, some EQ, and the stereo cue is going to the PCM81. So I added a little bit of delay there on the fly.
I loved you more than any of the guys you went looking for. Those hazy days when I went looking for your forgotten door. Living alone, I know the reason you don't walk out on me. The reason for you.
So let's try a little on-off on the bus compressor here to check if there's any difference. Personally, I don't like it to take more than a couple of dBs. I don't have any outboard plugged into the main insert here, but if I did, those would come in effect now. But since there aren't any, I just muted the main bus by pressing the insert button. It's the same for the two mono channels, they also have insert points. So you can patch in external EQ or compression if you want to. I really liked a little bit of low-end boost on the bass here. I have a mono button, which you don't hear in the main bus, but I can check my mixes in mono. And also I have an alternative output to alternative speakers, monitors. The flexibility of this mixer is enormous. You can pretty much route anything to everywhere if you want to. It's jam-packed with flexibility. Incredible. So what I'm gonna do now is this song you're hearing in the background. I'm gonna make two mixes of that. One mix will be done completely in the box, and one mix will be completely done on the SSL SiX. The in the box mix will have the Waves bus compressor, and I will match up the settings on that to the settings on the SSL SiX. And those two mixes will be available for download in the video description. One thing I didn't mention before is that when you mute one of the buttons on the channel, the signal will be routed to the B-bus output. That's a very cool feature. I'll get back to that in a later video, how you can use that to your advantage in a different type of setup. And so back to those two mixes. I thought it'd be fun to see if you guys have any comments on those mixes, if you prefer one over the other and why. And to make this as unbiased as possible, I will not reveal what mix is what until a couple of days, where I will follow up this video with the reveals of what was what. So you'll find in the video description a download link, free of course, to two mixes, mix A and B, A and B, and please download these and listen to them. I don't bother having these mixes up on YouTube because the YouTube compression will just ruin the whole exercise. So please download the 2 mixes and please comment and tell me which one of the mixes you preferred. As always, I'm Espen Kraft. I am the 80s, or I try to be at least. And until next time, the next video where I reveal the results, stay tuned. Cheers.